This is the 4.5-inch D2 Bushcrafter from Odenwolf. It has a Scandi grind with what looks to be a convex micro bevel. The handle is TPE. The included sheath is polymer. It has some webbing. Naked, we get 6.0 ounces. Skins at 8.8 ounces. Using some trigonometry, I get the Scandi angle at about 28 degrees all inclusive.
The HRC is 60.
For fit, finish, ergonomics, and design, the plunge line on the left side of the knife is about 10 thou higher than on the right, but the edge is still centered, the spine is still straight, the grind lines are even from side to side. The blade finish is pristine, to be honest. The handle is flushed, has a minimal amount of overrun onto the metal surfaces. Mine came with a thin layer of goop to prevent rust, so I love that. That's great. Overall, I think the fit and finish here is probably that of a $100 knife. Now, this knife is notably heavier than its W flat cousin, but shares the same ergonomic grip and feel. I love this sort of Coke bottle handle and its texturing personally, but dedicated bushcrafters might want something that fills the hand a bit more. This is a great looking profile in my opinion. The jimping is a bit sharp. They probably should consider rounding the corners here a little bit. I guess someone could do that with the file pretty easily themselves. The sheath comes with reasonable quality webbing for this price range. It can be replaced with a tech lock or other attachment system if you'd like. I personally like retention straps on these, so this doesn't really bother me that much. The lockup is pretty good. It's tight. It doesn't snap. It just sort of clunks in place, I guess. But still very tight. There's absolutely no wiggle there. For fit and finish, we're going to go 8.5 out of 10, and for ergonomics and design, points are deducted for the sharp jimping and the fact Scandi grinds are just not my favorite. So 8 out of 10 there. That said, I hope this knife performs really well because it's checking a lot of boxes for me right now otherwise.
For an explanation of these tests, look for a link in the description to a quick ads-free explainer video.
Got a few scuffs as expected. The lockup is still tight. I didn't even use the retention straps. It stayed in the sheath the whole time. So handle's held up well. Just some scuffing as expected, no damage.
As usual, I'm sharpening to 2000 grit for testing. Because I feel there's a convex micro bevel here, I used sandpaper on a leather strop.
Got it there.
Remember, our typical simple high carbon steels like the ones I forge with top out around 9 to 11 cuts. Here we went 13. That seems like the correct range for a good D2, so proper. Ooh, what's that? So let's put it under a microscope. As you can see, we have an otherwise pristine edge that was shaving about 50% of hairs, and there's a tiny chip and roll. All right, time for my balls. One is more massive than the other. Again, check out the link in the description to the explainer video if you want to know more about the tests.
Small ball, big ball. I have a cold, sorry guys. These are chips. This one's a little more deformed and less of a chip, interestingly enough, but this one is a chip.
Yeah, good news. So after some stabbing and prying, there's no fractures or chips or breaks. That's what we're looking for primarily here, but it's also straight. There's no bending. So in conclusion, no one can tell you how to feel about a knife except for me. And here I go. When you look at the edge retention combined for rope and wood, this knife far outshines other sub $40 knives by a lot. Here it is stacked up against some of the other sub $100 knives that I've tested. Its total cuts still exceed everything except for the Rake Jager in 14C28N. But it took a small chip after a lot of batoning against the grain and with a small ball. So this is typical D2. That is D2 steel. Here's me hammering the knife 3 times through this 1/4" mild steel. We get a few chips, but overall the damage here is probably no more than you would see with other knives with this geometry. For me personally, this amount of chipping is no sweat for a knife like this. I don't usually chop with knives this size. I never baton anything, and I don't typically pry with knives. So when I look at this knife, I see a comfortable handle, top-notch D2, a solid sheath for $35, and it gives me confidence in the brand's ability to deliver great value. If you use your Scandi knives hard or like to pry, stabby, choppy, then D2 isn't your steel, and this knife probably isn't your knife. That said, maximally performing D2 at this price is awesome. As my kids would say, Odenwolf is giving. If you haven't taken a look at this brand, you probably should.